The Ahsoka show has finally come to an end. It's been a wild ride. It did have some great moments, but particularly after the finale, knowing how it all wraps up, there are too many problems that end up really bringing the show down. So I'm going to discuss the 3 best and worst things about the finale. Let's start with the bad. Number 1, lack of explanations. The show did a terrible job of providing answers to the questions that the audience has. I did reviews for the other episodes, and you can find all these reviews on my YouTube channel, but I did not talk about this point previously because I was waiting to see if the show would explain things later on. But now having watched the finale, well, they don't explain it. And when they slightly explain it, they do so terribly. The most important thing that they didn't bother to explain in the finale is what actually happened in episode 5. There's strong indication from Anakin's dialogue that it was actually Anakin speaking to Ahsoka, meaning that Ahsoka was actually in the world between worlds. But how is it possible for Anakin to be there? No clue. And how did Ahsoka end up there? Don't know. Was it Anakin that pulled her there? Or the daughter? No idea. The world between worlds is not a place where you can just hop in and out of. The Mortis painting was the key to entering it, but it was destroyed. So how can Ahsoka just go there? Unless Ahsoka is one of the few people that can indeed hop in and out of there because of her ties to the daughter. But you see the problem? All the explanations for the questions above are fan theories. Us, the fans, trying to make sense of things that the show should be making clear. Us trying to explain what the show should be explaining. They also didn't explain how Ahsoka is responsible for Sabine's family dying. Baylan mentioned this to Sabine in episode 4.
Your family died on Mandalore because your master didn't trust you.
But we never explored this again. This seems like a huge deal. But do they bother explaining what actually happened and, more importantly, show how it happened? Nope. And then, of course, the greater power that Baylan is looking for. This was supposed to be the big reveal of the season, but all we get are teases. We still don't know exactly what this power is. We know it's tied to the Mortis entities, but is it the father who's calling to Baylan? Is it the son? No idea. Also, the only reason I know about them is because of Clone Wars. What about general audiences? They will have no idea what the statues mean, particularly if it's also connected to Abeloth. So to them, you finish the show without mentioning anything about this greater power. Number 2, Force abilities and the fights. Ezra is a Jedi who trained for years. We saw him become more powerful throughout Rebels. When he is stranded, he does not have his lightsaber, so I understand he will be rusty with a lightsaber. But since he didn't have a lightsaber, this also means he spent his whole time relying only on the Force, growing his connection to it. So he's supposed to be extremely powerful in the Force, yet he needed to be saved by Sabine 2 to 3 times. It's just so disappointing to see iconic heroes, years later, seem less powerful than before. I am done with this new trope of iconic characters that are supposed to be extremely powerful at a mature age being made weaker. Now, Sabine's use of the Force to pick up the lightsaber is a very nice moment. She trained with Ahsoka years ago, always attempting to open up to the Force. Now she has returned to training. Ahsoka already taught her the focus and techniques she needs to practice in order to learn the use of the Force. Now it's up to her to keep using those techniques over and over until she gets the hang of it. Here, she finally got the hang of it. They took their time to develop this, so it was well done. It's important to take your time to develop a character's skill, but you also don't want to make it repetitive with the character failing at the same thing with no payoff, otherwise you'll bore your audience. So this definitely felt like the time for the payoff. The issue, though, is the level of the Force that Sabine can master now. Moving a cup or picking up a lightsaber is one thing. Pushing a person like she did to Ezra is another level. They should have made Ezra capable of doing the jump by himself. And then, for the beginning of Season 2, you can write a small time skip to show that Sabine's powers have increased. There are also some choices in the fighting that don't make too much sense. Like, why is Ahsoka not dismembering the zombies? Remember when Ahsoka decapitated 4 Mandalorians at once with her lightsaber? Yeah, those were good times. And when Ezra drops his lightsaber and sees that the zombie he's fighting is much more physically powerful than he is, he doesn't try to get his lightsaber back immediately. If only he had some superpower that allowed him to pull his lightsaber from a distance, right? But for some reason, he only remembers he has the Force right at the end of the fight when Sabine helps him again. Number 3, Ezra and Hera's reunion. I am convinced that this show does not know how to do reunions. From the Ezra-Sabine reunion, which I talked about in my review for episode 6, to the Hera and Ezra reunion in the finale, it lacks meaningful emotion. The Ghost Crew refers to each other as family. This is not how you react when you see a beloved member of your family again after years. I get that there's an element of surprise at first, but then you would certainly run, hug, break down. But the writers seem to not understand how people act in meaningful reunions, which is really odd. Also, how did Ezra escape Thrawn's ship without detection? Why did he have to step out of the ship with the helmet on? And why did the New Republic even let his ship on board? They clearly thought he might be a threat because of how many crew members lined up and because of how they all drew their weapons. So is this just standard New Republic protocol? If an unknown, possibly dangerous ship approaches, just let them on board? I mean, this is what Captain Hale did in Episode 1, which resulted in Shin and Baylan killing everyone, so I don't understand why this is a common procedure for the New Republic. On to the good. Number 1. Master-Apprentice relationships. Anakin was the most important person in Ahsoka's life, so his appearances throughout the show have meaning. As a matter of fact, they are essential. It would be really weird to have an Ahsoka show without Anakin showing up. He was the person she loved the most, and certainly the most important person in making her who she is. And they honored their relationship, and by doing so, they honored Anakin. This is one of the best aspects of the show for sure, the fact that they respected Anakin. I so appreciate that. Not only is Ahsoka's past tied to Anakin, but I think her future is as well because of the Mortis entities. But I love the fact that Anakin is not only honored when he is on screen, but also when he is off screen, through Ahsoka, for example. In the Sabine Ahsoka conversation in this episode, Ahsoka mentions how Anakin always stood by her, even when no one else did. He was a good master, and so Ahsoka is choosing to be the same for Sabine, to do for Sabine what Anakin did for her. Number 2, the lore. The expansion of the lore in this show is by far the standout. There's so much they did in this show, from introducing Peridia and the Purgil graveyard, to the Great Mothers, and insight into the history of the Dathomiri, and now the 3 main Mortis entities, and possibly Abeloth. No, they didn't really explain anything yet, which is a problem as I said previously, but the idea that the Mortis arc is now tying directly to these live-action shows is exciting. The Mortis arc is one of my favorites, if not my favorite, from the Clone Wars, so I'm certainly biased in regard to this. This is certainly what makes me the most excited about a possible Ahsoka Season 2, to see the Mortis arc come into full development. I just hope that if there is indeed a Season 2, that the writing will be better. I know Dave Filoni doesn't have that much experience with live action, so I think it'd be a good idea for him to rely on others a bit more when it comes to adapting his ideas into live action. Number 3, Thrawn. The speech Thrawn gave to Ahsoka was one of the best parts of the episode. To hear him saying,
"Today victory is mine,"
and finally escaping this galaxy, leaving Ahsoka and Sabine stranded there, was a very nice moment. I love how ever since he discovered that Anakin was Ahsoka's master, he has treated her differently. He makes sure not to underestimate her in any way. He knows that Ahsoka, like Anakin, will be resourceful and think in unconventional ways. I find it well written how Thrawn has also expanded his strategies now. You see, in Rebels, he would very much rely on military tactics alone. He was not concerned with the Force or Jedi and Sith matters, but after failing to a single Jedi, he learned from his lesson. So instead of disregarding mystical matters, he now uses them to his advantage. He is incorporating magic into his military strategies. And since he's bringing coffins back to Dathomir, coffins that are likely filled with dead witches since they were taken from Peridia's catacombs, it means that the Night Sisters will be once again populating Dathomir. That's a lot of coffins and therefore a lot of Night Sisters. Thrawn with an army of Night Sisters, plus the remnants of the Empire on his side? Now that is a dangerous threat to the New Republic. Anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts down below, and the ratings you give for each episode, as well as for the show overall. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.